Well, he's back. Doug Goodwin from the Center for Great Workplace Performance. Oh, it's actually work performance.
Yes, but that's okay.
I'm going to say workplace because that's the heart of it.
It's completely fine.
I just get so excited about this whole thing. We now have got this buzz going on about the importance of training and preparing and equipping our supervisors and our managers. And this is show 3 for you.
Yeah.
Take us into the next level. We talked about workplace mastery the last time you were here. Now we're going to talk about...
I think it's time to get down and start talking about the actual middle manager themselves and what they mean to an organization, what is going on in reality right now, and then what can we do to improve the situation.
And we can with the right people.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's start there.
So, I think the unavoidable reality is that the middle manager is the essence of success of any organization. And the truth of the matter is they're probably being neglected if you're listening at your organization right now. That's just a reality. I mean, most managers, in fact, some research shows 92% of managers got promoted to their role and have zero to little training on how to actually be successful at that role.
And the viewers are used to me describing these guys as the boots on the ground. They're the ones who truly know. Well, it's actually been determined that though that middle management group is actually probably performing over 90% of the HR decisions on a daily basis.
Oh, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, HR is, we find out later, it's the supervisors, it's the team leads that are living with this stuff. And we're not real good. I mean, we've said that over and over again. We're not good at, number one, identifying who has the capabilities, the competencies, who is a natural manager, and how to make them better and more comfortable with this new role.
Right. I mean, like I said, 92%, they get the job. They've never been trained. I mean, how do you know how to do something if you've never been trained? I mean, could you imagine an engineer who never went to engineering school?
And your program is like a university and the MVP certification. So what do you want to share with the viewers today?
Well, I think if we break down work, I mean, there's 2 types of work. It's either a process or a project. The problem is none of us, unless maybe you went to engineering school, you might have learned how to run a project, but none of us have ever gone through process management training, and very few of us have gone through any project management training. So at some point, how are you going to learn how to do those if you don't get properly trained?
And your team, again, 16 weeks focused. Where do you begin on this?
So we really begin on setting a foundation. What are the things you need to know? So we start with the 7 Habits of Success.
Okay.
Everybody's read that book.
Yep.
Okay, everybody. But how many people have actually implemented it into their daily lives?
Well,
very few. So the first 16 weeks we spend on how to implement the first 6 habits. The 7th one is repeat. How to implement those 6 habits into your daily life and make them a reality. And then we move on to how to become a top-notch process manager, followed by top-notch project manager. So the entire first year, it's about learning how to basically do your job.
You're talking about a transformation, though.
Absolutely.
You're talking about molding and developing.
Yeah.
So how do we know when we're successful there?
Well, I think you will start to see things like beginning with the end in mind, putting first things first. Managers that are operating from a perspective of operational excellence, not task-driven. They're starting to focus on, what are the outcomes? Paying attention to outcome management, not necessarily diving back into being an individual performer, because that's what happens most of the time. All of these managers came up as individual performers.
Yes.
They were really good at it. They get promoted. When the going gets tough, they go right back into it. And that happens so frequently, it's unbelievable. But if you can coach them and train them and teach them to focus on outcomes and manage to the outcomes and stay away from the individual performer, they have those people that work for them. Mm-hmm. They need to be taught to teach them how to do that and let them do it.
Mm-hmm. And HR should be holding their supervisors accountable.
Yeah.
You would. when you go back to the organization and work with the senior team or the individuals who've put their people into this program, that's what you're doing.
Absolutely. And from the executive perspective, they need to be able to say, okay, here's our focus. Here's what we want to do. Get that middle manager in line. Get them involved from the very beginning. Have them be part of the decision. Give them the autonomy to actually execute and have their input right from the beginning. So you're building, all your decisions are built from the ground level up, not from the top down.
What substantiates your program? You talked about a couple studies.
I think it's all based on proven, time and time again, research and practice. This isn't like the latest fad that comes down the path. It's based on Deming, John Wooden, it's Peter Drucker, all of the historical management practices that have been proven time and time again, implemented and then updated and kept current. And that's really what it comes down to.
So you have given me 5 ways to start developing high-performing middle managers. Break
Absolutely.
Those down for
Absolutely.
me.
The first one I started to touch on it. So give them the autonomy and the responsibility to get involved at the beginning of the decision-making process, okay? So involve them right at the beginning. Don't come to them later.
That takes trust.
Absolutely it does. But what it also takes is you've got to spend time with them. You got to spend time with them, and you've got to gain their input and their insight and then respect it. And then, like I said, give them the autonomy to execute it.
And if they disagree, then work it out. Communicate.
Disagreements are fine.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with a disagreement. In fact, that's probably how you elevate to a higher level, by having some conflict. I think the most challenging thing is in any organization, if you hire the same manager or the same skill like 8 or 9 or 10 times, you've got a real problem on your hand. What you really want is 8 very unique sets of skills that come together and complement and work with each other.
Doug, do you know how secure a manager has to, or a business owner has to be to do that?
Yeah, a lot. It takes a lot.
You and I have been doing this for long enough to know that most business owners are not secure enough, but should be.
They should be. And that takes some hand-holding and some learning and some coaching, and we provide that too. I'm not here to promote that, but we absolutely do that. I mean, and that executive has to be a part of it, but they've got to be able to give it up and turn it over a little bit, or they're never going to really ultimately achieve what they can or what they could achieve.
Yeah. Give me another one.
Develop your middle manager bench and make it deep.
Okay. That's a novel concept.
Yeah.
Again, that's selection. That's retention.
Yeah. So let's be candid. We have a very limited number of true leaders today, not just in business, anywhere. It's a shortage. So if you're not actively and intentionally developing them, you're always going to be coming up short in that area. So have succession plans, have intentional development, identify people early on while they're still individual contributors through assessment, what their skill sets are, what their contributing factors are, what their strengths are, and start to build your bench, like I said, around those complementary pieces. So you're not repeating the same manager over and over, which is disastrous, but start to build those complementary where you can have conflict. And it's good conflict. Conflict is good. It doesn't have to be, divisive. It can be good, and it should be good. So you can build those teams around those contribution capabilities that they can bring. And then something that we've been doing is having organizations and individuals create their own pyramid of success. So pyramid of success is from John Wooden, UCLA basketball coach back in the 60s and 70s. But he didn't develop that pyramid of success by sitting down and saying, I'm going to knock this out. It took 40 years. I mean, he built that. He was a high school basketball coach in Dayton, Kentucky. That's where he started. And he worked his way up. Yes. And so over the decades, he started kind of documenting, hey, what works, what causes success, what causes failure. And he started documenting it. And eventually he came up with the whole concept of the pyramid of success. Why shouldn't we all have our own pyramid of success?
Well, and good for him that just by saying that, you just reassured me. That changed a million times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes we get panicky when things change.
Yeah, exactly.
Or when we think that we have failed at something, when in fact we're just perfecting.
Yeah. It's just refinement.
I like that word.
Yeah.
I do use that.
And if you don't have a basis to work off of, how are you going to ever refine anything? You're just grabbing. It's like chasing a squirrel. It doesn't work.
But this takes communication. Everything that you've said is getting, again, one-on-one or sitting down and listening as much as you're talking.
Absolutely.
To these new supervisors.
Yeah, inclusion, get them involved early, often right from the decision-making process. Don't the top-down doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, number 4.
Actually, we're on number 3.
We're on number 3 now.
Number 4.
Okay.
So make sure that as a senior leader that your priorities have been clearly communicated to your middle managers, and then coach them. Make sure that they can focus on the outcomes. I've said that a couple times now, but make sure they're focusing on the outcome and not falling back into, okay, now we're stressful. I'm going to go in and do the work because my team maybe is coming up short. So I'm going to jump back in and do it for them. That doesn't work. You got to coach them on, hey, stay above it. You got to be focused on the outcome. So your team knows to focus on the outcome and help the people beneath them or coming up, the pipeline. Help them focus on the outcomes, but it all has to be outcome managed. It can't be, jumping back in and getting into the next task.
Okay.
Ready for number 4?
Give it to me.
Okay. Create a community. Okay, so let's think about this.
Gosh.
When you're that middle manager, you've got it coming from both directions. You've got the executive level pushing down. You're dealing with issues from your employees.
Yes.
Family issues, financial issues, job-related issues, stress, mental health-related issues. And you're the one who's getting it. The executive team, they're kind of separated from that. So you're getting it from both directions. And then you're also getting it from the customers and the vendors. And so it's a very lonely place to be. Okay, and if you feel like you're by yourself, your chance of success is not very high. However, if you intentionally and proactively develop a community, develop coaching, maybe it's bring them in a coach, that's fine. Maybe it's find the right organization for them to belong to where they can go talk to other middle managers and build off each other's, learnings and failures and start to develop that and just create some relationships. But make sure that happens and do it intentionally. Don't let it be haphazard, like really focus and develop it.
Okay. Yep. I know how often that's happening.
Yeah, not very often. Not often enough, that's for sure.
Not often enough.
Yeah. So, and then the final one, just remove the bureaucracy. These folks, they don't have time for this.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
We have so many efficiencies or systems that can add efficiency to our lives. Oh my gosh, that right there would help our mental health.
Yeah, without a doubt. And just think about it. They've got the possibility of them providing immense value to your organization it's almost unlimited, and you also pay them a lot. So if they're dealing with bureaucracy and becoming manager of administration, that's really not a very good value proposition for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely get the bureaucracy and start eliminating it.
Oh my gosh. All right, listeners. 5 major things that you can do today, but understand that that's not going to fix everything.
Right. It's a process.
It's a process, and the Center for Great Work Performance is there to refine even these
that's
steps.
your outline, and if you need help, you can come to us. You can go to anybody, but get help on here. I just laid it out for you. That's your baseline.
And I want to keep reminding everybody, look, this is essential. You've got to train that middle group that's doing all the work or setting the example for the people who are doing all the work. And everybody wants a great workforce and a workplace, and everybody needs good performance. Doug, thank you. Thank you very, very much for coming in. Again, Doug Goodwin, they can reach you at
Doug@cgwp.org.
Or contact the station. One of us will help you find him. Again, remember, my name's Pandy, and I'm here to help you. because you've been listening to the Human Resource.